New reports just dropped music that Cardi B's tour might have been cancelled. It all started during a recent performance when something happened on stage that immediately had fans questioning whether she had gone too far. In February 2026, Cardi B became the first female rapper in history to sell music out 2 consecutive nights at the Kia Forum in Englewood, California, the opening weekend of her Little Miss Drama tour, featuring a 37-song set list and an elaborate stage production that included the artist being suspended above the audience. Let that land for a second. Not just a stage, not just a set, a floating platform. Cardi dangling in music, the air above a crowd of screaming fans who had waited for this moment for years. Cardi hadn't toured since 2019 after cancelling her Invasion of Privacy tour following a pregnancy. So, this wasn't just a comeback. This was a resurrection. Music critics noted that the stage design, which included pyrotechnics and a floating platform, elevated the show beyond a standard rap concert. One reviewer called it a fully realized theatrical event. The concert's music featured several guest appearances, including performances by Glorilla, Kelani, Tyler, and Blueface. The crowd wasn't watching a performance, they were inside a music event. During the first show, she performed the song Pretty and Petty, which was widely interpreted as a diss track directed at rapper Bayer. So, within the very first night of the tour, she's already stirring the pot. Following the Los Angeles shows, she continued the tour with a streak of 35 consecutive sold-out performances across North America. It became the highest-grossing tour by a female rapper in California, earning $9.4 million from $59,300 tickets. Music sold across 5 shows while performing Thosiana at T-Mobile Arena on a Friday night. The 33-year-old rapper fell off a chair mid-rhyme. The moment was captured by fans in attendance and quickly made its way to social media. Dressed in a lacy red ensemble, Cardi was straddling the chair and leaning back to engage with the crowd when she appeared to lose her balance, and tumble onto the stage. The crowd gasped, dancers rushed in, and for a half second, the whole arena held its breath. She continued her rapid-fire verses while lying flat on her back, eventually working the fall into her floor choreography. Like a pro, she quickly recovered and continued thrusting her hips from the floor alongside her shirtless male dancers. After finishing the performance, she stood up to a cheering crowd and joked, "That was the government." Just the week before, during the opening of her tour in Southern California, Cardi B had hurled thinly veiled threats at U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Department of Homeland Security. "If ICE come in here, we're going to jump, they easy music bees," the 33-year-old stated, drawing loud cheers from the crowd. She doubled down. "I got some bear mace in the back. They ain't taking my fans." The message was a reference to recent volatile activities by federal agents regarding immigration. And then the federal government did something nobody expected. They clapped back. The official DHS account wrote, "As long as she doesn't drug and rob our agents, we'll consider that an improvement over her past behavior." She immediately pivoted the conversation, writing on X, "If we're talking about drugs, let's talk about Epstein and friends drugging underage girls to who raped them." Once she caught wind of the fall going viral online, she added on X, "Can someone put a community note on this? This video is clearly AI." She continued the drama, with DHS sharing a gift of Dr. Evil from Austin Powers in response to the federal government entering its third partial shutdown. This is Cardi B operating at her highest frequency. The stage fall becomes a press cycle. The press cycle becomes a cultural moment. Now DHS and a Grammy-winning rapper from the Bronx are having a beef on social media while she's midway through the most commercially successful debut arena tour by a female rapper in history. Here's the thing about the DHS's comment, the one about drugs and robbery. It wasn't just a jab at Card's past in general. By the time this tour was happening, Cardi B was already staring down a civil lawsuit that had been filed against her just months before. One involving a microphone and a crowd, and a woman from Cleveland, Ohio, who says she still hasn't recovered. The plaintiff says she was on a solo trip to Nevada to see the Grammy-winning Bodak Yellow singer perform when the incident unfolded at Dry's Beach Club on July 29, 2023. It was a daytime show. Cardi B was on stage amid music, visibly high-temperature conditions, and verbally requested that the audience splash her with water. She even poured water from a bottle over her own body. The crowd obliged after several drinks were thrown. Cardi audibly responded with apparent approval, music saying, "Woo, that feel good." Cardi, in apparent anger and without warning, suddenly and forcefully threw her microphone directly at the victim. The victim filed a police music report against Cardi B, telling officers the microphone injured her shoulder. Cardi B addressed it on The Breakfast Club. In her own words, she explained that 15 to 20 minutes after the segment where she asked the crowd to splash her, the woman threw her drink at her face and the ice hit her directly. Her exact words, "There was a part of the show I told people, splash me. But even when I told people splash me, I was like, be careful with the face." The police looked at the evidence. The case was closed as having insufficient evidence. Music, no charges were filed. Most people assumed that was the end of it. It wasn't. On July 21, 2025, 2 years later, a new lawsuit was filed in the 8th Judicial Court in Clark County, Nevada against Cardi B by the same woman identified as Jane Doe. The plaintiff is suing Cardi B for assault, battery, negligence, and emotional distress. Music, they also alleged that the microphone was put up for auction and sold for nearly $100, adding insult to injury. Cardi B's attorney, Drew Finding, called it a transparent and pitiful attempt at a financial shakedown. The civil lawsuit is now moving toward a jury trial with proceedings expected in 2027. Music so, as Cardi B is flying above sold-out arenas on the Little Miss Drama tour, there's a courtroom case being built against her in the background. By April, the tour was on its home stretch. 35 dates, 35 sold-out shows, city after city, state after state, music, and then came Atlanta. Atlanta was supposed to be the celebration lap, music the closer, the finale. And for the fans who had tickets to State Farm Arena on April 18th, it very nearly became nothing at all. Cardi B nearly pulled the plug on her Atlanta tour stop after a heated situation behind the scenes escalated into a public confrontation just hours before showtime. She went live on Instagram ahead of her second night, music, at State Farm Arena, visibly upset over how members of her team were treated upon arrival. In the live stream, she called out venue staff, warning that she was prepared to cancel the show if the issue wasn't addressed immediately. "Your F-King employees are being disrespectful. I'm not performing today," Cardi B said during the broadcast, music demanding to speak with higher management. She went further. "I did 35 shows and I never had a problem, and we've been kind to everybody. That's the detail that hits hardest. 35 shows without an incident like this. Then on the very last night, the last city, the last arena, this is where things almost fall apart, and not from anything Cardi did. From the way her team was treated walking through the building, while details of the altercation remained unclear, Cardi made it known she felt her team was being disrespected without cause. The fans who were already inside, who had driven hours, who had spent hundreds on tickets and merch and parking, they had no idea any of this was happening backstage. They were waiting and they kept waiting." One attendee later noted that Cardi did state the venue wasn't nice to her, and that she doubted coming out, but she did end up delivering a performance, and went over her allot time, which fans noted was a nice gesture. So, she stayed, she performed, music, she went over time. And if you were in that arena, you got the show. But the Instagram Live was already out there. The footage of Cardi threatening to walk in the final city of her biggest tour ever was already making the rounds. She told fans on the first of 2 nights in the city, "I got a lot of celebrities here tonight, so you'll better not embarrass me." That line turned out to be a two-way warning. Music, as much as she was talking to the crowd, it sounds like it applied to everyone in that building, staff included. What the Atlanta situation showed is something that the whole tour had been building toward in small ways. Cardi is someone who operates at the absolute edge, not just on the stage, but around it. The ICE comments, the DHS beef, the MIC lawsuit lurking in the background, the backstage confrontation. These aren't separate incidents. They are the same person living at the same intensity at all times. And Atlanta was where it all nearly broke under its own pressure. Let's zoom out because after everything, the chair fall, the government beef, the Atlanta near cancellation, the lawsuit, the question worth asking is, what did this tour actually become? The tour sold $453,000 tickets and grossed $70 million across 35 dates in 32 cities, becoming the highest-grossing debut arena tour by a female rapper. $70 million, 350,000 people every single night sold out. It's the first tour, Music, by a female rapper in history to gross over $5 million at a single venue with $325 million across 2 shows at Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden, 2 nights, over $5 million. That's not just a record. That's a statement about where Cardi sits in the culture right now. In February 2026, Cardi B became the first female rapper in history to sell out 2 consecutive nights at the Kia Forum in Englewood, California. The first in history, not just among her peers, not just in this era, first ever. And while all of this was happening, she was simultaneously managing a political feud with the federal government, a civil lawsuit headed to trial, and a backstage crisis on the last night of the tour. Most artists would have crumbled under the weight of one of those things. Cardi was running all 3 at the same time while suspended in Music, above 20,000 people, on a floating platform. The tour supports her 2025 album, Little Miss Drama, which peaked at #1 on the Billboard 200. So, the album broke through, the tour broke records, and the conversation never stopped. Music not for a single day. The Little Miss Drama tour received widespread acclaim from music critics who lauded the production's ambition, Cardi's stamina, and the show's theatrical scale. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because the title of this video says Cardi got suspended from her tour after something happened on stage. And if you've been watching to this point, you've seen the chair fall, you've seen the DHS beef, you've seen the Atlanta blow-up. The stage production, that included the artist being suspended above the audience, was one of the defining images of the whole tour. That's the suspension the title is referring to. Not a ban, not a cancellation, but Cardi literally being hoisted into the air above a sold-out crowd night after night, as the centerpiece of the most commercially successful debut arena tour a female rapper has ever mounted. The chaos around it. That's just what happens when Cardi is in the building. After the US run concluded, Cardi confirmed she was planning to get her BBL removed, Music implying there are no plans to continue the tour immediately. So, the tour is done. The records are in the books. The lawsuit is still pending. The DHS is still out there. And Cardi is, at least for now, stepping back from the road. But here's what this whole story tells you about Cardi B. Music in 2026, she came back from a 7-year touring absence, dropped an album that went straight to #1, put together a production that critics called one of the most ambitious rap concerts ever staged, sold out 35 shows in a row, started a beef with the Department of Homeland Security from the stage, fell off a chair, and turned it into a viral political moment, had a backstage standoff with venue staff in Atlanta, and is now heading into a jury trial in 2027 over MIC she threw 3 years ago. Attorneys for both sides are expected to focus on whether the performer's actions were a reasonable response or crossed into unlawful conduct. The case underscores ongoing legal questions about performer-audience interactions and liability during live events. If no settlement is reached before trial, a jury will ultimately decide whether damages are warranted. The trial, the records, the feuds, the fallout, none of it is resolved yet. The tour may be over, but this story is very much still